On today's show, we have our guest, David Goa, and we're going to be talking about forgiveness and church discipline. How do we understand these concepts? And how do we understand church discipline and organization? And we're also going to be talking about enabling, or if someone's enabling someone else's bad behavior. Where do we draw the line, and when do we know we have stepped across lines into enabling destructive behavior? David Gold.
I recall on a number of occasions people saying to me that within the Catholic Church or within the Orthodox Church, you're very lucky because you can just go to confession and then you can go and sin again. This is, of course, a curious way in which I suppose Protestants sometimes, and maybe secular people, have looked at the form of confession, and they have not understood anything about what's really going on there or what the discipline actually is. So forgiveness. I mean, I've pondered forgiveness because of particular kinds of circumstances, and it's a remarkable concept to forgive. In the Christian tradition, we say that all sin, all missing of the mark, whatever it might be, things of pride, things of gluttony, whatever it might be, sins of omission, things that we don't do, which are sins, or things that we do, that all sins are first and foremost sins, we often say, against God. That is, they are against the creation itself. They're against our own being. Priests that I have known and known well and talked with have often pointed out that the most difficult thing in confession routinely is to help the penitent forgive themselves, help the penitent accept God's grace. That's much more difficult than getting the penitent to say what their sins are. It's to help them accept God's grace. So, when we forgive someone who has harmed us, is it possible for us to forgive them before they have confessed their harm? Like, what's that dynamic like? Can you forgive without confession? Well, you can certainly have a mind and a heart which is not blaming, which is not even holding them to account. You may not even know that they have sinned against you. I mean, I've had people come and confess to me something that I had not realized that they had done. And I was grateful for that, because I did not know what it was, but it had, in their mind, it had despoiled our relationship. And so this was a chance for our relationship to be restored. The great gift, and of course forgiveness is at the very center of the Christian tradition. Purity is not at the center of the Christian tradition. This is why Christianity is not a moral religion, first and foremost. It's about transfiguration. It's about transformation. So forgiveness is such a precious part of the Christian teaching. And Jesus Christ tells us we are to forgive 70 times 70. which is a way of saying always forgive. Forgiveness is not the same as enabling. And forgiveness isn't something we do. It's something that arises between us and whatever it is that requires forgiveness. If that's a human relationship, it arises between us. It is a gift of God's grace that occurs between us. So we have a discipline about confession, which is intended to cultivate within us our capacity to see when we have missed the mark, to see when we have done something or we haven't done something which has not called forth the fullness of life. So there's a discipline about this. But the reality of it, I go back to this, the reality of it is that when I am prompted to confess that I have done or thought or not done or not been attentive to somebody else, and I ask for forgiveness for that, it's because I've seen that my way of being has lessened the world and has lessened our relationship. And if the person I have said that to welcomes that, if they welcome that, then forgiveness arises hand in hand with reconciliation, with becoming one again. So in a sense, forgiveness has nothing to do with enabling. Enabling is related to your passion. When we think of alcoholism and the struggle that often exists in families, and how I have read about this a little bit, alcoholics or drug addicts are very good at getting people to enable their behavior. They're very good at that. Well, that's because they're manipulating the other person's affection for them or relationship to them. So this has nothing to do with forgiveness. They are still dwelling in a dynamic that needs healing. That dynamic needs healing. And only as it is healed can some kind of restoration ever come about. So love and enabling are clearly not the same thing. Enabling comes not from love, but from some kind of bondage. It comes from a passion which has got you entangled in this relationship. And where there is entanglement, there's not love. There's dependency, there's slavery, there's whatever else has bound that relationship. So relationships that flourish, relationships which are genuinely loving, are relationships which are dynamic, relationships where life is unfolding and where people aren't spinning in circles in their own neurosis.